As we get to the seventh parak of the Megillah, this is the moment in which finally Esther's plan is put into full force. Already in the fifth parak, we know is when she begins. She goes into the king's inner office, risking her life and inviting Achashverosh to the party, setting up this notion, this idea that Haman was somehow after the throne. Then, of course, we learned about his sleepless night. He wants to know who's loyal to him. And in the seventh parak, finally, it's Esther's big reveal. She finally, at the second party, says to Achashverosh, I have to ask you a question. You can't say no. What is it? What is it? And she finally says, Haman hara this evil guy is trying to kill us. This is very big reveal. And Achashverosh, doing the right thing when you're angry, decides to take a walk, comes back in, and Esther at that moment pulls Haman down on top of her. Haman nofel al hamita. And when Achashverosh sees this, it crystallizes in his mind all of these plans and this coup, this rebellion that Haman is attempting or potentially trying to do. And therefore he's very angry. How could you do this? Like I'm lichbosh, askini babayis. And right then and there, Charvona comes in and Charvona says, you know what we should do? V'gyomer Charvona, he says, there's gallows. There's gallows. Those gallows were originally for Haman. For Mordechai, let's use it for Haman instead. Vayisluas Haman ala eitz. And the next pasuk, Haman is hung, and already the salvation is getting much closer. Of course, there's still a battle that the Jews have to fight. But the question is, who's Charvona? We say he's got two lines in the whole story. The Gam Charvona Zachar Latov, we sing after the Megillah. So who is he? Now the Malbim says that he was in the room. He knows the plan. He knows that Haman wants to kill Mordechai. He was there in the war room. He was there making the strategies. So he can say, I know there's the gallows. But who is Charvona? Some suggest that Charvona was a fair weather fan. Originally he was for Team Haman, and now he's for Team Mordechai. But along the lines in the Megillah of small characters, minor characters that make a major difference in the story. We have Hasach, the messenger. We have Hegai in charge of the beauty pageant. And we have Big Son and Seresh, who even though they don't play a part, are a huge part of the story. We have Charvona suggests the Ibn Ezra. Charvona is Eliyahu Hanavi. Charvona Eliyahu Hanavi, who's there at every bris milah, who'll be there in a few weeks at our Seder table, who's the Mevaser Geula. He's Eliyahu Hanavi. And the question is, what in the world is Eliyahu Hanavi doing in this story? And the answer is, because it fits with the entire story of the Megillah. Throughout the Megillah, we are reminded that every single person can change the world. In real life, not just fluffy, that in real life, here's a guy, Charvona. He's got two lines in the Megillah. And not only that, but in his two lines, all he does is suggest that there is gallows that we could use. The Gam Charvona Zachar Latov. The Megillah story, Esther's story, is that every person can affect change in this world. That it's not left to the people in the highest seats of power who can be the most devoted, the biggest check, or the most amount of this or that. Every single person has a role. Look at the Megillah story. A little bit here and a little bit there. There's no Megillah salvation without a Charvona. There's no Megillah salvation without a Hegai, who gives Esther the longest night in the month of Teves to be with Achashverosh. And that's what this less of Gam Charvona Zachar Latov. The story is told that there was a writer in Israel. His name was Chaim Ber, but when he was a little boy, he approached of Ayer Levin, the great tzaddik. And he says to Ayer Levin, Nu Reb Arla, are you one of the great Lamed Vavniks, the great 36 great tzaddikim? So Rabbi thinks a little bit. He says, you know what? Sometimes I think I could be. But so could you, he says to this Chaim Ber. That's Gam Charvona Zachar Latov, the impact, the ability, the opportunity for each one of us to affect great change in the ever we are and at any time within our community.